Marriage expectations, they're there for sure. We talked last week, as Dave said, talked about men. And so let's pick up the subject. What is it that men, instead of leadership, now what do they need to reciprocate? What, ladies, do they need from you, from the wives? Well, I know the top on your list. I can tell by the response on the screen. But since we have a whole house full, I'm just letting you know that I know that's the top on the list. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. But I do know. What does the husband need? First of all, let me just say that could go into 100 points. And it varies by household, and it varies by the person. And so part of the whole deal with marriage is figuring out what that is for your man. Exactly how and why and what he needs, figure that out. But what I've done is I've come up with a few things that I think are just across the board. I think it's true of every person. And by the way, last week you probably picked up that some of the very needs I said that women have, men have too. And you'll pick it up again today. As human beings, a lot of these needs are basic to all of us. But I know this is true for men. For instance, number one, the man needs to be honored and respected. And just as you view, number one, I put it at the top of the list. There's been books written about this. Love and Respect says the love that she desires, right, and the respect that he desperately needs. And it's been said, I haven't seen any scientific facts, but it's been said that the way God wired us is that men need respect more than they need love. And women need love more than respect. I don't know, but I just know on a man's list, respect is huge. Just huge. Look what the scripture says in Ephesians chapter 5. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she, come on, say it with me, see that she what? Now, why do you think, I asked you last week, the Bible said to men, love your wives? And I just said, because you have to be that straight with men. But that was partly true. But the other part of that is this. We typically think that when we read scriptures like this, that they were written to a group of folks just like us, in the same culture as we are. And that's not true. Christianity has done more for you ladies in terms of bringing you up to where you actually belong than any other religion on the planet. Because back in the Roman Greek times, if you had the women, the wives, were low on the totem pole. As a matter of fact, some of the places they considered as their property, just like the animals were. That low. When Christianity came along and Paul wrote this phrase, I mean, it was about the most mind-blowing phrase these guys had ever read. When he actually said, husbands, I want you to love your wives just as much as you love yourself. For a male and female, that was culturally totally upside down. I mean, that was huge. We take it for granted now. But you know, 3 times he said for husband to love. 3 times in the Bible it says, husbands, don't forget now, you love that woman. You love her as you love yourself. As Christ loved the church, you love her. As Christ laid down his life, you lay down your life, sir, for her. Well, that's just, other folks say that's just way beneath me. No. No, the Bible, we're getting this thing right now. We're getting this thing right with Adam and Eve. The value that needs to be placed on her. Get it right. I don't know if it's tied to the fall and what happened with the male psyche, that respect is such a huge deal, but it is. They're going to get respect. The question is where? Where is he going to get it? He's going to get it from some place because he's wired to get it. And part of the mechanism in God's creation and putting man and woman together is that she is supposed to be part of the answer to the solution. That through her, God can minister through her and give the man what he so desperately needs. But he's going to get it. Maybe he's at work. Stop by the bar someplace with his friends at ball games. He'll find some place that somewhere he's going to drink of this respect, the place that he feels the most valued at. The question will be, will it be home? Because that's where in God's design it was designed to be. And it does so much. See, when you respect him, that's one of the avenues that confidence comes to him. For a man, that confidence flows to him. I mean, you've been through some tough times. We've been through some tough times. Dean and I have been through tough times. And you know, something just in those tough times, the confidence that comes from the wife. And I believe personally, it's connected to God. I think God chose, just like he chose to minister through a man to a woman, I think he chose a supply stream through a woman. Because see, he can't get it on his own. He can't get the respect on his own. It has to come from outside. So somebody else has to provide that for him. Obviously, God does. But I think God's given the wife, it's such an incredible need. It provides trust. This respect is it's a high level of trust that starts to be built and confidence in a man. It's one way, it's a strange way for a man to feel safe. Respect. It fuels something inside of him. It was our first year of marriage, and we were off at school. And Dean had a job where she went to work for an insurance company. It was a big room and had desks in the room. People sat at the desks. And when Dean went to work there, the guy who managed her came up to her the first day when she went to work and said to her, "I want to sleep with you before you leave here, leave the job." Now, I was studying the Bible, but I still liked a good fight. And I was ready to settle the score. And the Lord dealt with me and said, "Don't you do it." So the hardest thing I remember, it's hard. And then he moved her desk from being out in the general where everybody else and moved it up beside his desk. Then she would come back from lunch and he would have a note that he had written on her desk. Then she would come back and have flowers that he had put on her desk. You ready for me to take him out? Yeah. And then in the middle of all that, it was like the Lord slapped me. You ever had the Lord slap you? It's like he slapped me. Because I heard these words run through my head. When is the last time you've given her flowers? When's the last time you wrote a note? And it was just like something popped me. I never was concerned about her. Never questioned one time that there'd be a flaw. Never questioned. The Lord used it in my life to build character, and he used it for me to be a better husband. And so, came time for her to leave that job. And his words to her was something like this. You know, never really wanted to be a Christian. But when I saw how you lived and saw how you walked through this thing, as if I ever do, it would be because of you. But I can't tell you the level of respect that she had, and I felt so incredibly safe in the middle of that crazy scenario. But respect for a man, respect and honor, the trust is huge. The second thing I want to mention to you ladies is this, is that he may not always be where you want him to be, but learn the art of treating him better than he deserves to be. Now, God treats you better than you deserve to be, yes? What I want you to do, ladies, is I want whatever failure he is, instead of pointing it out to him, I want you to create a bar where you're believing for him to be. And I want you to create a vacuum that because of your honor and respect, that you are believing that he is going to do better and better while you pray about it, while you work with him. You pray about it instead of, number 3, don't put him down. Have you ever been around a wife who puts her husband down? It almost is like it's almost like the scratch on a blackboard. It's something. It so violates and goes against something until it has this sense about it. There's a couple who went to a counseling session, and because the guy said he had an inferiority complex. And so he and the wife went to the counselor and sat down, and so he told her what the presenting problem was. And so the counselor said, oh, okay. So the wife said, your husband says he has an inferiority complex. Do you believe him? She says, no. She said, I don't believe he has an inferiority complex. I think he is inferior. I don't think it's a complex at all. There's something about this whole equation that God put it together, that you avoid all the negative, nagging things. It's just, for a man, that is just not cool. I mean, look what 1 Thessalonians says. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you're doing. Encourage one another. Build each other. You go in this thing as a team. You're a team together to do life. The Bible says you're heirs together. And now as teammates, you live in such a way. I mean, I know. Do you have ways you load the dishwasher? Come on, ladies, talk to me. You have ways you load it? Uh-huh. And then what you saw on the screen, if he loads it a different way, let him load it. Let him load it. All the nitpicking, yeah. I mean, how many of you guys have ever walked out and she looked at you and said, God, that don't match at all. What is not said is, you stupid idiot. You don't even know how to match clothes up. Wait. We're on the same team. We're teammates. We're heirs together. This is me, baby. You got me. I might want to change, and I will, unless you come at me so critical. Then I just might wear it. Remember. You remember last week when I talked about men are mugs and women are like fine china or like crystal? Remember that illustration? Hey, you don't want to make me a fine china. You don't want me to be crystal. You want me to be a man. James Dobson wrote a book about boys. And part of his warning to parents was, don't take the masculinity out of boys and make them so nice until they become feminine. There's something about this image that you need to see. God had Adam took Eve out, and now he said, no, you come back together and you become one. The masculine doesn't become feminine. It embraces the feminine. And say, there's just a certain, it's what you got. All right, say it with me one time. Say, nagging is not good. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. And nagging is death. Okay. Good. All right. I want you to the number next. I want you to believe that whatever he does, he has good intentions. Can you start off giving him the benefit of the doubt? I mean, overall, he is a good person, yes? Overall, he wants the good thing for you in the marriage, yes? So if he comes out about it the wrong way, could you give it, coming out of the chutes, just have a little faith in him, a little say, okay, that didn't come off exactly how You probably meant that, but we'll just dial it down for a moment. I remember when Dean and I, we were engaged to be married, and so we were riding along, and she had her two fingers, she was sitting close to me in the seat, had her two fingers inside my shirt, just rubbing my chest. You know what happened to my chest? It got bigger. Now, Dean already graduated from the University of South Carolina. Don't hold that against her. But she had dated some of the guys up there. Some of them were athletes. And so then, as she rubbed my chest, she said these words: "I'm sure glad you don't have the big muscles like those other guys I dated." It just went away. Now, I'm sure she had good intentions, but I'm still getting therapy over that one. But give him a break. It may not come out exactly right, but the two of you are on the same team. Tell yourself he didn't intend that way. At least start out that way. Now, if he does it again, you got another thing coming. All right, listen to him. Ladies, it's not true that men don't need to be communicated with and talked with and they won't talk. Now, not as much maybe in some cases, but God wired men to be heard, to be listened to. They want to talk. I'll never forget reading a survey of men who had been unfaithful and reading a survey, and I was surprised at some of the response back when it came from when stuff happened that shouldn't have happened, how much the lady says, he wanted to talk. He wanted to be heard. I thought that was interesting because you'd feel like everything else driving it was something opposite. But I don't, God wired to man to be the head of the house, to lead. In that strength, I want you to get this, lady. I want you to see this with me. In that strength, underneath him, inside, there's this stream that runs of the male. And I wouldn't call it fragile. That's too strong. I wouldn't call it that. But maybe ego would be a good word. There's something that needs to be heard, that needs to be understood. And I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions that they have of men, that they don't have that need. And as that thing runs, when you interrupt them, when you talk over them, when you can't let them finish a sentence, when you get so excited about what you want to say back and say, oh, that can happen about 3 times. And then what's going to happen? Come on, men, talk to them. What's going to happen? We're going to shut this thing down. Listen. Do what I call bracketing. I know you got a lot of words, ladies. I know you got a lot of words. And I know you get excited about what you want to say. But bracket it. Take your thoughts and take what you want to say, put it in this little internal bracket, set it aside so that you can fully engage and listen. Active, deep listening. And they know when you do it and when you're not doing it. I can't tell you how many times in the years gone by, I would be in a counseling session and it'd be late in the afternoon. You ever have those 3 o'clock drops or so, about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon? And you've been doing stuff all day and I'm sitting and I'm listening to somebody and you can't hardly keep your eyes open. You know, anybody ever had that happen? It's just, and what I learned to do is I learned to call time out. I learned to call time out and said, could you just give me a second? Because you're not being listened to like you deserve to be listened to. You're not being heard like you deserve to be heard. So what I want to do is I'm going to get up now and go get me a cup of coffee. I'm going to come back in, and we're going to dial in this thing and do it again, because you need to be listened to and you need to be heard. But that's the difference in a passive kind of just letting the words flow. So ladies, not too many interruptions. Don't talk over him. Bracket your thoughts and your feelings and listen to him. I mentioned this verse last week, but let me mention it again because it is the next thing I want to cover, and that is tone of voice. You know, sometimes it's not what you say, it is, oh, yeah. And a soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up what? Now, I don't know, guys, do you recognize a certain tone? When they come at you in a certain tone and you think, oh, no, you didn't do that. That way? That tone? I think we men have something in our ears that are sensitized to a certain tone. And when that tone comes, it just registers something inside of us. And again, I don't know if that tone is tied to the respect issue. I don't know if that tone is tied, but I know when the Bible says a soft answer, I know what the difference is in harsh words. And I want to give you the imagery again because it exists, and far too many people overlook it. You have the strength of a man, but you have this inner stream that's going that's incredibly sensitive. You got this thing inside of a masculine soul. Oh, it's male, and it's strong. But there is something there of a tenderness that you got to be careful with. You have to understand it, that it's there. Maybe it's ego, but the tone of voice is huge. All right. Okay. Treat him like he's an adult. It's nice when you have humor out in the audience, isn't it? I know Dean, when she used to teach school, she used to come home and she'd be still in her teaching mode. I remember one time we were out eating supper and she's cutting up her meat, and I'm looking away at something. Next time I look back, she's cutting my meat up. I said, get away from my plate. I can cut my own meat up. I know when I have to go to the bathroom. I don't have to be asked, do you need to go? I can see, I'm not blind. I can see a parking spot. I actually have driven down there by myself and made it back. But back when we were staying in the parsonage over here, I think I walked that day, and I walked it after work. I walked home, and I walked in the house and walked by the room where Dean was, and I said to her, I said, would you look up so-and-so's number for me? And I kept on walking, and she stopped, and she says, I'm not your secretary. She said, you're not my boss. She said, it wasn't anything hostile, it was cute. And she says, you step out of that work mode, step into Mike mode, and you come home, and then we'll have a great conversation together. So I understand this, but ladies, sometimes you get stuck in a mode, and then everything is in that whole world is in that mode. Somebody ever just say amen, we can move on. Amen. All right. Husbands need your affirmation. They need your affection. There's something about the male that God made. Now, he matched us up. He paired us up together so we could help each other, yes? He said, I want to get you a help meet, and that's not a secretary. It's someone who can be the person right along beside you, who can supply and let God even flow through this person what you need, and he matches you up so that can happen. So this affirmation, if a man is affirmed, a husband is affirmed, I mean, he can conquer anything almost. I mean, if he has the confidence and the affirmation from his wife, it gives him so much courage. And I think the Lord uses that a whole lot. That's the reason I think part of the counter to this building up is a nagging. Part of the counter of it is a lack of respect. Part of the counter of it is when somebody has been raised in a home that's predominantly female-driven, and now they go and they're going to try to make their home the same way like the home they were raised in, and they don't realize that what they're violating, what they're giving up. Affirmation, affection. Husbands need to be touched. They need to be affirmed. They need to be told, I love you. They need to be told, I'm so glad God put you in my life. They need to be told. And of all the people on the planet, somehow by the grace of God, he gave me you. They need to be told. They need to be affirmed in their gift, in their calling, in their work. They just need to be affirmed. Words, words, words. They also need to be, they need your prayers, ladies. Let's end with this one. They need your prayers. I don't know of anything any more powerful when I look back over our years together. I don't know of anything any more powerful than, it works both ways, than the time where I stepped into situations where Dean she just needed her covering, her man, to pray for her. And so I remember one time, it was anyway, I went to the edge of the tub and I sat on bed, and I remember she was going through something. And I just began to pray for her. And I remember feeling that God was doing something. And it was almost like one of those moments that God sets up where you just step into and something happens more than you would think happened. It would just be, well, you're going to pray for it, it's going to be okay. But, I mean, it was something really took place. And then I remember times where she would step into my life. I remember a time where I had gone over with Adrian in Sri Lanka, and we'd gone over to some other countries. And we actually went to a place where Adrian took us to a place where they would have girls, and a lot of them were underage. And so we went in the place with Adrian taking us, and we stood and we watched these young girls. Watched them come out and just walk out. And so we left, and he said, that's what happens oftentimes. And I remember I came back from that trip, and I could not get that thing out of my head. And I couldn't get a sense of heaviness. I couldn't get it gone. It was like it was just there. And I remember I had some of the pastoral staff to pray with me and pray for me, and it was just like, I couldn't shake it. And this had gone on for weeks after I got back from the trip. And I remember Dean coming up to my office, and she said, I think I ought to pray for you. And she laid her hands and she began to pray. And as she prayed, she said, Mike, I just see like a dark spot on your side. Like something's attached itself to you. And she just prayed a prayer like, I break that power of the enemy that attached itself to you. And I break that spirit. And just like that, friends, just like that, it was gone. And God used it to set me free. I don't know anything more powerful than a wife praying for her husband. And there's 31 prayers you're going to see up on the screen. It's going to come. And they're just prayers that you can pray for your husband. I mean, there's 31. If you want to go through a day, you can just go on. We'll have it on the internet. Lord, I pray that God would for him to put God above all things in his life. I pray him to set aside all idols, to bless the work of his hands. And they got scriptures for each one of these. I pray protection in all things for godly friends. Will you give my husband godly friendships and to be a good influence, and that he would also be a godly influence, to keep his eyes and his heart pure, follow God's command, show our children God's love, and it goes on. There's nothing more valuable than praying. Now, I want to close this out by asking the team to come back, because I want to have one more moment of worship, and then we'll let you go. But if you're here as couples, I just pray that God solidifies. I pray that what was in God's mind when he said, I'm going to create Adam, and I'm going to take from Adam Eve, and then they're going to come back together and become one. What he saw in his mind, I pray that you experience in your relationship. I pray the vision that God has for marriage and for couples would be lived out. He wouldn't give us something that we can't reach. He wouldn't give us something impossible without helping us get there. And so I bless each one of you. And may God's grace come, even as we worship together for this moment, and minister to you.